There are a lot of different scenarios we can see for the final round of playoff rankings. Although we have a solid idea of who the 12 teams are going to be, there are still a number of questions up in the air. Who is going to get the final bid? What is seeding going to look like? Which 4 teams are going to get the automatic bye? What if I were to tell you that there is one scenario that nobody has thought about just yet? What if I told you there was a scenario that the College Football Playoff Committee is begging doesn't happen? But before we get to that scenario, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. Before we get to what the rankings could look like, we're going to look at the matchups this weekend and break down each winner and how the craziness could ensue. We'll start with the UNLV Boise State game, in which UNLV will pull off the upset and secure an automatic playoff bid. Now, all season, people have been talking about Boise State, how they're likely going to be in the college football playoff, how they're in the driver's seat to get a first round bye, but all of a sudden now, UNLV, with one win this weekend, they're going to win the Mountain West, and they're going to secure that automatic bid, and Boise State, well, they're going to be left in the dust, and they're not going to reach the college football playoff. Up next, you have the Big 12 title game, and of course, I'm going to take my Arizona State Sun Devils to win this game. Up next, we have Georgia taking down Texas in the SEC title game. Then, we have Penn State defeating Oregon in the Big 10 title game. Finally, we'll have Clemson defeating SMU in the ACC title game. Now, getting those exact 5 outcomes would be pretty crazy. I entered those odds into a sports betting calculator, and it gives that 5-team parlay 53-1 odds of happening. So as you can see, it's a pretty big long shot. Still, it's something that we could see happen. Now, if we were to get those 5 outcomes, the 12-team playoff rankings would get completely shaken up compared to how they looked last week. In this scenario, you would likely have Penn State getting the number 1 seed as the Big Ten's conference champion. Then, the number 2 seed would likely go to the Georgia Bulldogs with 2 losses as the SEC champion. Now, this is where things could get really fun and interesting. Depending on where the playoff committee ranks these 2 teams, they could obviously swap. But for the sake of this video, and for my personal sake, we're going to say that Arizona State is going to climb all the way up to the number 3 seed as the Big 12 champion. You would then have Clemson as the 4 seed as the ACC champion with 3 losses. A 3-loss team that wouldn't have even made the playoffs had Miami not lost to Syracuse last week. So in this scenario, your 4 byes would be Penn State, Georgia, Arizona State, and Clemson. Now, how many of you would have thought those would be the 4 byes just a couple of weeks ago? Now, this is where things get really fun as we turn to the rest of the rankings, where the committee would have to shake a lot of things up. By winning the Mountain West, UNLV would automatically come in as the number 12 seed, so let's determine 5 through 11. You'd have to imagine that Oregon comes in at number 5, as they can't fall too much for losing their first game of the season to Penn State. I'm guessing you'd have Texas 1 spot behind them at number 6, after they fell in the SEC title game. Notre Dame would then slide to that number 7 spot. We'll then keep our standings from last week, as Ohio State would remain at number 8, and Tennessee would remain at number 9. But this is where things could get really interesting. After losing in the ACC title game, how far would SMU fall? There's a chance that Indiana could stay as the number 10 seed, considering in the actual playoff rankings, they were only 1 spot behind SMU. So would SMU drop a spot behind Indiana despite losing, or would the playoff committee keep them in that exact same spot? With Boise State being eliminated with their loss, the team that would be behind Indiana in the rankings would be Alabama. So all of a sudden, with Boise State out, Alabama would be moving up 1 spot. So you would have an SMU team who just lost in the ACC title game, something the playoff committee said they would not hurt a team over. Or you have Alabama that the committee has been raving about having a great record against top 25 teams. Also, what about Indiana? I know they only have 1 loss so far on the season, but they did come in at number 9 in the playoff rankings last week. You would have Clemson and Arizona State leaping over them, so Indiana, all of a sudden now, they could be a potential bubble team. I know they only have 1 loss, but the Hoosiers have an absolutely terrible resume. So would there be a chance that the Hoosiers get absolutely screwed and they get left out of the playoff discussion? If SMU were to lose this weekend, they would be 0-2 against top 25 teams. They wouldn't have a single ranked win on their schedule. SMU head coach Brett Lashlee is already thinking about this scenario, and here's what he had to say on this topic the other day.
If the worst happens this year, do you think coaches will start to consider doing crazy things like not playing or benching players or doing things?
if our team all got COVID today and didn't play, we're in.
Wow.
We're in, right? We don't have another data point to drop us below anybody that's behind us.
Based on what happened in 2020, that's how it would go. Yeah.
I think if you open up that door, you're going to see a lot of people do a lot of crazy things. Yes, we're not going to. We're going to go play in Charlotte, and we're going to try to compete for our championship because that's the right thing to do. That's what competitors do. We value an opportunity to share the field with someone like Clemson, a fantastic team, and try to do something special. And so I just, like I said, I'm going to choose to believe that on Sunday that the right thing will be done as well on the other end.
I mean, he's not wrong. If SMU just did not play this weekend, they would have a spot secured in the college football playoff. But by playing and potentially losing, they're taking a chance of losing their spots, especially depending on how the game goes. I mean, what happens if they end up losing to Clemson by 20 plus points? What does the committee opt to do with them in that scenario? Now, I have faith the committee is going to do the right thing and keep SMU inside the top 12, but there is that chance that they go off the rails and they don't stay true to their word. Or like I mentioned earlier, what if the playoff committee truly does go crazy and they opt to give Alabama the final spot over Indiana? Again, the Hoosiers don't have a great resume at all. They've really done nothing to show they're worthy of being a top 10 caliber team based on their schedule. We saw what happened when they played a good opponent. I know the scenarios are a little bit different, but remember when Florida State was undefeated, but because they didn't have a quarterback, the playoff committee thought they wouldn't stand a chance in a college football playoff game? Well, maybe the committee might think that with Indiana. If they're deciding between the Hoosiers and Alabama, maybe they're going to think between these two teams who would put up a better fight if we face them against Texas or we face them against Oregon. Now, personally, I think Alabama would put up a better fight than Indiana would, but Indiana has earned the spot considering they're 11-1 on the season. All I'm saying is, if SMU were to lose to Clemson, allowing the Tigers to be a bid stealer, things are going to get really interesting on Sunday morning for the final round of playoff rankings. Now, if SMU beats Clemson, we're not going to have to worry about any of this, and we're probably going to get the exact same 12 teams that we got in the latest round of playoff rankings. Well, that wraps it up for today's video. What do you think would happen in this scenario? Do you think SMU would still get in? Do you think Indiana would still get in? Or do you think Alabama would somehow, some way find a way to sneak into the top 12? Also, what do you think about Penn State, Georgia, Arizona State, and Clemson being the 4 teams with byes? Wouldn't that be something? Whatever your thoughts are on the craziness that can ensue this weekend, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting playoff videos every day leading up to Sunday, so to stay up to date with all the latest playoff news, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm, and it helps share this video and my channel with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you all in my next video.